Okay, guys, so I'm going to spend just a few minutes now today talking about writing a t-test results section. And this specific video will be made talking about writing a t-test for significant results. And then I'll do another one where I'm talking about insignificant results. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go on and just turn off my camera because I've got a glare here, and it's just a lot easier for me to kind of do this when I'm not having to worry about looking at the camera, and I can kind of talk freely. So every once in a while I might turn on the camera just to make an emphasis. But this will help you guys for, number one, for reviewing for the second exam. And then also it will help you guys, obviously this video is made to help you complete the last little assignment that you'll be getting in class, which is writing just a sample results section. So make sure that you keep both of these videos in mind. And again, we haven't seen major concepts for a while, but because we've been doing stat stuff for a few weeks, but by the time I get done talking here, you need to know what the very basic purpose is of a results section, which again, that will help you review for the exam, just kind of knowing why we write a results section in the first place. And then it's going to be really easy. We're just going to talk about the first sentence of a results section, the second sentence, and the third, and the third and the last. Okay, so and again, this, for the purposes of this class, you know, this is a very basic thing, but sorry, this is a very basic write-up. I mean, if you do results sections, otherwise they a lot of times will be more complex than this, but for the purposes of what I'm trying to teach you, this will be very easy, just four or five sentences. Okay, so what's the purpose of a results section? It's there to give you strictly the numerical statistical data. And if you remember back to exam one, we talked about that just a little bit, that it's there just to give you the very basic numerical data from the methods and the data analysis that you performed. And it sits between the methods, which is what you did, and the discussion, which is like what you think section. Okay. And so the thing is that a lot of research writing, it's really short and to the point. And so for this exercise that we're doing, it's going to be like 3 to 5 sentences max, okay, for the purposes of what we're doing. And there are some of you who need to listen, okay? And I don't know any other way to say it than this, but nobody wants to hear you talk more than necessary. This is not 5-paragraph essay like in high school English class. Okay, you are not there to talk and to give, especially in the results section, you're not there to talk and give your opinion. Okay, so again, nobody wants to hear you talk. And I'll go and turn my camera for a second just because I look right at it. Trust me, if you, for this exercise, write more than 3 or 4 or 5 sentences, you are doing way too much work and you're probably going to get downgraded. Okay, resist that urge to tell me how smart you think you are. Okay, do not do that. And again, I've got people on my radar every semester who don't seem to get that. And I'm thinking back to one particular student I had a couple of years ago. He would just wear me out with talking. Okay, so don't do that. This is not, I'm not going for a word count here. A lot of y'all are so used to how many words it's going to be, how many words it's going to be, how many words it's going to be. It's going to be the amount of words that you need to say to convey the information. Nobody cares about, you know, making this flowery, like things of that nature, or you know, putting in a whole bunch of fancy phrases. Don't do that. This is not English. Okay, just stick to the examples I give you and you'll be fine. Okay, all right, so a quick little 8-second review here. Okay, and again, we're talking about t-test here, so remember, you're going to be using a t-test when you're comparing the statistical means of 2 groups. Okay, remember that's what we're talking about here, is that when we've got 2 groups of people, we're comparing them, we're using a t-test. And that's a quick little review for exam 2. But just to kind of jog your memory a little bit, that's what we're doing. We're talking about comparing 2 group means. So here's an example. This is an example. This is not, you know, necessarily how you would write yours up. This is just an example. Okay. So an instructor wanted to know whether her students gained any knowledge about exercise physiology from the beginning of the semester to the end. And so she gave them like an entry exam on day one, and she calculated the average test score for the whole class. So there you go. There's a mean right there. That's an average. And then she gave them the exact same test on the last day and calculated the average again for the whole class. All right. So you've got two means here. Okay. So now you got to stop and think here. What kind of analysis would she have done? Now you're going to say, some of you guys, and I'm telling you right now, this is what you're going to do. You're going to say t-test, and that's going to be it. You're going to say this. You're going to say t-test. Yes, I know it was a t-test, okay? But I need to know what kind of t-test. You have all been told this, and all of you generally have gotten it fairly well right on the practice and on the homework stuff that I gave you, okay? But you need to know what kind of t-test. This will be on exam 2, a question like this, and some of y'all won't get it. And I'm sorry, okay? So if you don't know, if you're not able to, in your mind, at least familiarize yourself with it right now, if this doesn't sound familiar, then you better go back and review, okay? Because you're going to get blown out on the exam. And some of y'all are going to lap the field on it, and that's fine. But you need to make sure you review. Okay, so this is the first sentence for the results section. And the first part of the results for a t-test is going to include something like this. And again, guys, this is not the only way you would do it, but it's just a good way. For example, what kind of t-test you used? Was it paired or independent? All right. And you're also going to tell what you used that t-test to analyze. Now, believe it or not, this can be done in one sentence. Certainly not more than 2, and almost definitely 1. Trust me, less is more on this. Do not start writing a bunch of junk, because when you start writing a bunch of junk, you get yourself down the rabbit hole very quickly, and instead of sounding intelligent, you sound like you don't have any idea what you're talking about. Okay, so please follow my lead. Here's an example of the first sentence in the results section. Remember, it has to be there. This is it. A paired t-test was performed to determine whether there was any change in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the beginning of the semester to the end. That's it, okay? So you accomplished both purposes. You told me what kind of test you did, and you told me, why you did it, all right? If you look here, like this part in the brackets, that has to be there. That tells the reader what you did, okay? And then this part with the arrows also has to be there. That tells me or the reader why you use them. And so basically you're spelling out that you know what you're doing and that you picked the right analysis, all right? And some of you guys will not do this, and I don't know why, because I'm spelling it out right here for you. I mean, it doesn't get any more simple than this. Okay, here's the second sentence. The second sentence of the results section for a t-test, it's going to tell generally, or at least for this example, it's going to tell generally what that t-test showed as far as significance of difference. And so again, when we're talking about significance of difference, what are we talking about here? We are talking about a p-value, okay? And again, that can be done in one sentence. Remember this. And some of you guys are smiling right now because you know I'm talking to you. Okay, I could call you out by name, but I'm not going to do that. If we were in a classroom, I would do that, all right? But remember that nobody wants to hear you talk on and on, but you're not that important, okay? And I know that sounds harsh, but it's just true. Take that burden off of yourself and just be simple, all right? Here's an example of the second sentence in a results section. It, because we have already told you what we did a t-test. It showed that there was a significant difference between the groups, and then it gives the p-value. Okay, now look, here's how it works. Here's the real world translation of what it showed. You are setting the reader up for telling them, okay, it showed a significant difference. And here's the p-value from the statistical analysis. So those obviously should match. I mean, if you have a significant difference, this needs to be a p-value, less than 0.05 or whatever. Okay. So again, that's the second sentence. You're just telling the reader and making it obvious that you know what you're talking about. Okay, so just again, make sure you know. Okay, then we can talk about group means a little bit. And the third, and a lot of times maybe there's a fourth sentence, but they break down the comparison of the actual group averages. Okay, so up until this point, we have set the stage of what we're doing. We have told them what we found. And then now we're going to break down the actual averages. And if they are different, if they're significantly different, you want to state that. You always are going to include the mean and the standard deviation for each group that you're comparing in the t-test. For each group, how many groups are there going to be? There's going to be 2. And some of you guys are going to rush this, and you're going to slap it together at 10 till midnight, and you're going to mess it up, which is why I don't, this is free money. And I saw people do it last spring. They did the same thing. They just slapped it together. They had 2 weeks to get this done, and they slapped it together at the last minute, and they left money on the table. Please don't do that. So here's an example of how you would compare the averages in a results section. The average score on and remember, she did this pre-test, post-test thing. The average score on an assessment of knowledge of exercise physiology was greater at the second assessment. So, she says, here's the mean for the second, than the average score at the first. All right, now look, I keep forgetting, I've already kind of done this, but here's one of the group means and the standard deviations. Standard deviation, that M right there, that's the mean. Right there, that's the mean. And here's the standard deviation. Okay, here is the other mean and the other standard deviation. All right, right here, same deal. All right, and you see how I did that in one sentence? It's easy. All right, so you're just spelling out the means and the standard deviations, and then I gave a little statement here about which one was greater. Okay, so again, these are greater, so you can, here I would say greater at the second assessment, and we showed that they were significantly different, so you can go on and roll with that. All right, that's fine. And then finally, a lot of times results sections will end with a concluding statement that basically kind of puts the whole thing back together. It's kind of like a brief wrap-up statement that kind of wraps up or puts into real words the numbers that you just got done talking or giving. Right? Don't talk too much. Remember, that's for later, like in the discussion. Do not give opinions. When you start giving opinions and this is not the place to say opinions. You would not say they got smarter, or he taught better, or the tests were easier, whatever. You're not going to, that's not here. This is just for numbers. If you start giving me a bunch of opinions, I'm going to mark you off. Do not do that. Okay, check this with each other. And a good check is it boring? Yes. Okay, then you're probably doing it right. Stop trying to dress this up. This is not English. I'm not grading you on how flowery you're speaking. Do not do that. And here's an example of the last sentence. Students demonstrated an increase in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the start of the semester to the end of the semester. Okay, and even then, that could be a little bit of an opinion. Really, it's really just that they, had a higher test score. But you can make a reasonable assumption that because it's testing knowledge that they demonstrated an increase in knowledge. Okay, so yeah, again, here basically in real words, you're comparing the two groups. You're breaking it down in real words for the reader. Simple. And so here we go. Here's the whole thing put together. Okay, look, watch this. It's going to fit on one slide and be readable. Okay. A paired t-test was performed to determine whether there was any change in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the beginning of the semester to the end. Here's what you did. Here's why you did it. It showed that there was a significant difference between the groups, p-value 0.021. Here's what it showed, and here's the numerical value. Okay. The average score on an assessment of knowledge of exercise physiology was greater at the second assessment than the first. Okay, here's your mean and standard deviation for one group. Here's your mean and standard deviation for another group. Students demonstrated an increase in overall knowledge about exercise physiology from the start of the semester to the end. Okay, and I'm just comparing these two averages. Here's the average, at the end, and here's the average from the beginning. So that's what you're doing. Some of you guys, like in the spring of 2020, a few people just exactly copied this whole thing and didn't even this is an example, guys. This is not what you write. Like, stop and think for 2 seconds. Okay, just do it. Right. So yeah, keep it simple. Some rules to follow. For the 4th time or 5th time or 12th time, keep it simple. No one wants to hear you talk about what you think here. Don't do this. Just generally give the data. Do not include what you don't need to. So again, keep it simple. All right. Don't give opinions. Again, see this first line. Don't make crazy conclusions. This is not the place to do that. Don't do anything other than give the data in the format suggested. So again, I think it all points back up to this line up here, guys. All right, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so that's it for the results section for significant results for a t-test. Now, depending on what you get for your last assignment, it may be significant or insignificant. So this might not apply to you. You're going to have to decide what you got and how to write it up. That's your job, okay? So I would strongly recommend, well, it's probably too late to have told you this now, but it'll be on the assignment. I strongly recommend you know what you're doing. And if this video doesn't apply, and it's the other one, the insignificant results, then you should have known that before you started watching this video, okay? So you just wasted 17 minutes and 50 seconds of your life. I'm sorry, okay? So that's gonna do it for this. I will go on and post this up, and this will be on D2L, and it'll be good to go. Email me if you have any questions. I'm not gonna be doing your assignment for you, but if you need clarification on things, email me and let me know. Hope you guys are doing well, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye.